create a rapport and create a relationship, then you need to think in terms of, well, who is this person? What do they care about? What are they looking for? And how does my experience meet that? I can give you a more specific example as well if you would like.
Well, I'm thinking, do you think that, for example, a personal story relates to business growth? And do you think that telling a story or a lot of stories makes people more financially successful? I mean, they're kind of aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what it comes down to, the bottom line is that when you tell stories well, and when people feel that the stories are compelling and resonate for them, then what happens is that they immediately understand that they can trust you. They also see that you are credible. They see the experience that you tell through story is worth so much more than saying, oh, I have a degree in this or I've worked with that company. When you actually tell a story about that demonstrates your experience, that sounds much more credible than a resume detail that may or may not be true. And they can't prove that, they can't know that in the moment. But when you tell an authentic story of an experience that you've had, that sounds real and that sounds authentic, then they are going to believe that and they're going to trust you. And if they trust you, they're going to invest in you. And if they invest in you, you're going to grow your business. And that's, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. I can give you an example of, just out of the blue, a couple of days ago, I was on a call. I was visiting actually a client, and we were just on a break, and I got a phone call from a prospective client, and it worked out that I could pop into it was in a city not far from where I was. I could go through that city, and I popped in to visit them within a couple of hours. Now, I didn't have time to research the company, to do any preparation, to really understand what they wanted, but I could still go in there and tell relevant stories based on experience with companies that were similar in terms of their needs. So the first thing I do is I go in and I listen to what they're looking for, and then I can begin to recall experiences that were similar as examples. So I didn't go in and say, oh, well, this is my client list, these are the people I've worked with, or this is my resume, and this is where I studied, and, this is my website. I went in and I said, oh, well, when I worked with the leader who demonstrated a similar issue around engagement, we found, and I go into this whole story. And that's so much more convincing. And, hopefully that's going to work into a big project. We're in the process now of negotiating this project for them. And I know for sure that the story is what blew them away. The stories, being able to recall moments that are relevant and that build my credibility and create this connection of trust, that's what it's all about.
I can really appreciate what you're saying. And I've been going through some old boxes of stuff that I did when I was on the road for 20 years. And I actually forgot some of the things that I did and where I'd been and who I'd spoken for and all of those things. And I read some letters that people had sent me. And what I should have done was I should have been recording some of these stories in a journal or somewhere, so that when I needed to pull them out, I had them because they were genuine happenings. Do you suggest to people at all that they should write down their meaningful moments?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I do for that is that I write a blog and I send out to my distributionists. I write stories every single week. I've been doing it for years. And it all began because my own coach said to me, Lisa, if you want to build community, you need to communicate with them. You need to tell your stories. And she said to me, you need to tell a story at least once a week. And my response at that time was, oh my goodness, my life isn't that interesting. How could I possibly tell a story every week? But from that moment, she said, oh, I trust you, it'll be fine. And from that moment, I wrote a story every week that goes out to my list on a Tuesday. And it's the greatest way. And, it's funny you say you don't remember, because occasionally I'll go back and look for something around a certain time period. And I often find things and I think, oh my goodness, I forgot I'd written about that. So it's great to have that.
Well, now you are the story coach. So is anyone able to do that?
Yeah, I believe everybody can tell stories and everybody can coach with stories. And it's based on this very simple concept that, we're doing it anyway. We're telling stories anyway. So we experience something, then we go tell somebody. And the way we tell it turns into a story, because what we tell about our experience only has really quite a small percentage of absolute pure fact. You know, the rest is our opinions and our beliefs and our outlooks. So the thing about becoming a better storyteller and the thing about using story and coaching and using this approach in your business is to just be conscious and intentional about the way in which you share your experience. And that way what happens is you learn how to craft stories, you learn how to really interact with your audience, whether it's one or two people or whether it's 1,000 people. And you learn to read the signs of how people appreciate story and how they interact with them. It's definitely a learnable skill, no doubt about it.
Well, I have to tell you, I read your writings, and I'm blown away with how musical they are. You may not have ever heard that before, but I find them very musical, just the way they flow. Um, it's not like you're just writing words. It's really music. And I know other people who are storytellers and involved with kind of that genre, and they don't seem to have that same kind of musicality about their writings. I don't know if you've ever been told that before, but that's how
It's
I see it.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
very interesting you say that because I actually have never been told that before, and yet music is a very big part of my life. And I've actually studied classical music for many years, but I also think I have the added advantage being Irish. You know, there's a kind of a musicality about language from Ireland. But thank you. I appreciate that. I've never heard that before. I'll have to
It
think
really
about that
is.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, Lisa, how is the best way to do that?
Well, my website is story-coach.com, and you can certainly reach out to me at info or lisa at story-coach.com. And that would be probably the best way. But you know, I'm everywhere on social media. Just look up Story Coach on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and you can find me very easily. So
Well,
that's
and by the way, it's Lisa, Lisa, and Bloom, Bloom. So you
mhm.
know that you've got the right person. But it is kind of interesting when companies bring you in, like this tour you just did in Latvia. What
Mhm.
did they want you to do?
Well, it varies with the company, but sometimes it is working with leaders to help them become better storytellers. Because if you think about it, usually great leaders are great storytellers, and often companies that are successful tell a good story. So sometimes I'm helping improve the skills of leaders in telling stories. Sometimes I'm helping an organization understand what their story is so that they can really kind of clarify their identity through their story. And sometimes we look at how they move through change processes with stories. So rather than just focusing on the technology and the process of change, they really need to learn how to articulate the change so that they can implement faster. So people understand, well, what is this change about? If there's a good story, then they can catch on and they can join it much better. And occasionally I get hired to come in and really create a story event where I tell a story over a couple of days and I collect other people's stories, and we do this whole interactive story creation process, which is wonderful. That was the most recent one I did, and fabulous, working with very, very senior leaders and hearing their stories and making some videos out of them. It was a wonderful, wonderful event.
That is fabulous. So if you want to reach Lisa, and she really is the best at this, you go to story-coach.com.
Mm-hmm.
And as you heard her say on Facebook and everything else, it's story-coach. Don't leave out that dash or you won't find it. So very important. But I think this has just been fantastic, Lisa. I have really learned a lot about. I'm going to have to start putting more stories into what I do because I am very I'm humorous in when I speak, but I do tell stories, but I don't think I use them enough. So
Mm-hmm.
you're an inspiration for me. So I really
Thank you.
enjoyed having you here today, and I just wish you the continued best in everything that you do.
Thank you so much, Gail. It's been a pleasure to be talking to you.
Thanks a lot.